You won't believe what people actually filed formal complaints about at public libraries. We're talking about real patrons furious that the carpet pattern was secretly a QR code downloading a virus to their brain, or demanding the aquarium be removed because the fish were mocking them by swimming in circles. This isn't fiction. These are 61 of the most unhinged, entitlement-filled complaints actually filed across America. And the audacity gets worse with every single number. Buckle up and hit that subscribe button right now, because you are definitely not ready to hear what happened with the toilet in number 5. 1. A middle-aged woman marched to the front desk, with tears streaming down her face, and demanded to speak to the manager immediately. While she claimed the large blue library sign outside was aggressively depressing, and the specific shade of navy had ruined her entire week before she even walked through the door. She insisted that blue is scientifically proven to be a sad color, and the library was liable for her sudden emotional distress. She demanded the staff repaint the sign neon yellow or hot pink by tomorrow to foster a welcoming vibe, or she would sue for emotional damages. Do you think colors can actually control your mood this much? 2. An impatient businessman in a sharp suit filed an official grievance stating the automatic sliding doors opened far too slowly for a man of his importance. He argued that the split-second delay implied the building itself did not respect his time, and he felt personally insulted by the lack of mechanical urgency. He actually timed the doors with a stopwatch and claimed the 3-second opening process cost him valuable productivity that he could never get back. He suggested the sensors should predict his arrival from the parking lot, so the doors would be gaping wide open upon his approach. Would you be this impatient just to check out a book? 3. A grumpy old man slammed the daily newspaper onto the reference desk and shouted that the library was intentionally spreading negativity to the community. He was furious that every single page was filled with crime and politics, and claimed it was the librarian's specific job to cut out the bad stories with scissors before putting it on the shelf. He insisted they should only display happy news about puppies or local bake sales, because reading the actual headlines raised his blood pressure way too much. He threatened to cancel his tax dollars if he saw one more article about inflation or weather disasters. Do you think we should censor reality just to stay happy? 4. A confused young mother refused to accept book recommendations from the head reference librarian because the employee was not wearing prescription glasses. She loudly argued that a person with perfect 20/20 vision could not possibly be smart enough to locate the history section without help. She claimed that in movies and cartoons, all the smart people wear thick spectacles, and the lack of eyewear proved this staff member was a fraud who probably did not even know how to read. She demanded to speak to someone with astigmatism immediately to ensure she was getting accurate information. Is it fair to judge intelligence based on accessories? 5. A nervous teenage boy filed a frantic comment card claiming the toilet in the second-floor bathroom was trying to attack him. He stated that the automatic flush was so violently aggressive that the noise startled him into a state of pure panic. He described the water pressure as a jet engine taking off and said the sudden whoosh sound gave him mild PTSD every time he tried to use the facilities. He suggested the library install a warning siren or a countdown timer before the flush engaged so patrons could brace themselves for the sonic boom. Are modern bathrooms actually becoming too high-tech? 6. An elderly woman stood outside in the pouring rain, kicking the metal book drop chute because it was too narrow for her donation. She was trying to shove a greasy used toaster oven through the slot intended for thin paperback novels and could not understand why it would not fit. She screamed that she was trying to do a good deed by donating appliances and accused the library of being ungrateful for her generous gift. She eventually left the appliance on the wet sidewalk with a note saying, "You are welcome for the breakfast, even though the library does not serve food." Why do people treat libraries like dumpsters? 7. A conspiracy theorist wearing a tinfoil hat spent an hour staring at the carpet before running to the desk in horror. He claimed the geometric pattern on the floor was actually a giant secret QR code that was downloading a government virus directly into his brain through his eyes. He insisted that walking on the rug was reprogramming his thoughts to make him pay late fees without complaining. He demanded the staff cover the entire floor with plain cardboard immediately to stop the digital transmission of mind control signals, or he would call the FBI. Could a carpet design actually hypnotize you? 8. A wealthy Karen stormed past the checkout counter and accused the anti-theft security gates of committing grand larceny against her. She screamed that the invisible rays emitted by the sensors had magnetically erased the strip on her platinum credit card while she walked through the entrance. She demanded the library write her a check for $5,000 cash right now to cover her inconvenience and the potential loss of points on her account. The staff tried to explain that radio frequency gates do not work that way, but she insisted her purse felt warmer than usual. Do you believe invisible waves can ruin your wallet? 9. A baffled senior citizen returned a DVD of a classic Western movie and demanded a full explanation for the deceptive packaging. He was visibly upset that the plastic case was a rectangle, but the disc inside was a perfect circle, which he felt was a lie. He argued that if the box has corners, then the movie inside should also have corners, and accused the library of trying to trick old people with geometry. He spent 20 minutes explaining that squares fit into squares and circles roll away, so the mismatch was a safety hazard. Does packaging shape actually matter to anyone this much? 10. A barefoot man wearing a G was furious when the security guard politely asked him to stop doing high kicks in the main lobby. He argued that the library was a public space funded by taxes, and therefore he had the constitutional right to practice his karate wherever he wanted. He claimed the silence of the library helped him focus on his chi, and the guard was infringing on his spiritual journey by making him leave. He tried to demonstrate a roundhouse kick near the biography section to prove it was art and not a disturbance. Should public spaces allow full martial arts training? 11. A sophisticated woman in a trench coat spat out a mouthful of water and looked at the fountain with pure disgust. She filed a formal complaint that the free hydration station did not dispense chilled sparkling water like the public fountains in Europe. She loudly claimed that tap water was for peasants, and the lack of carbonation was an insult to her refined palate. She demanded the library install a gas canister immediately so she could enjoy her bubbles while browsing the magazines. She refused to drink flat water because it lacked texture and excitement. Is free water not good enough anymore? 12. A germaphobe man stood by the waste bin for 10 minutes holding a rotting banana peel in total distress. He was furious that the trash can was not an open concept design and actually required him to push the metal flap with his hand. He shouted that touching the dirty lid would contaminate his soul and demanded the staff come open it for him like a butler. He claimed the spring-loaded door was a health hazard designed to spread plague to innocent readers. He eventually threw the peel on the floor near the bin in protest. Are trash cans actually too hard to use? 13. An eccentric lady wearing 3 scarves complained that the library architecture was personally attacking her physical health. She insisted that the cathedral ceilings were simply too high and created a very specific draft that only hit the back of her neck. She argued that the excessive vertical space allowed the air to gain momentum and freeze her spine, while she tried to read romance novels. She demanded the staff install a lower false ceiling or provide her with a heated neck brace to combat the architectural wind tunnel. She claimed the room volume was a waste of good heat. Can a high ceiling actually make you sick? 14. A grumpy tech user called the IT support desk over to complain that his computer monitor was blindingly bright and hurting his sensitive eyes. He screamed that the brightness settings were maxed out to dangerous levels and the library was trying to ruin his vision permanently. The IT guy walked over and politely pointed out that the computer was actually turned off completely and the screen was black. The glare was just the reflection of the afternoon sun coming through the window behind him, but the man still demanded they turn down the sun. Can you really be this unaware of your surroundings? 15. A dedicated listener returned a 20-hour audiobook CD set and demanded a full refund for her wasted time. She was absolutely furious that the professional narrator breathed too loudly between the sentences, which ruined her immersion in the story. She claimed the sound of human lungs inhaling air was gross and unprofessional, and the editor should have removed every single breath from the recording. She demonstrated the sound to the librarian by gasping dramatically and said she could not focus on the plot with all that biological noise happening in her car speakers. Do people expect narrators to be robots who never breathe? 16. A daydreaming student slammed his hand on the glass and yelled at the custodian who was cleaning the windows outside. He filed a complaint stating that the janitor was selfishly wiping down the exact pane of glass he was trying to look through. He argued that the squeegee motion was disrupting his view of the parking lot and broke his intense concentration on doing absolutely nothing. He demanded the staff create a cleaning schedule that revolved around his specific staring habits so he would never be interrupted again. He felt the clean glass was actually too clear. Is it rude to clean a dirty window? 17. A vain woman stormed out of the restroom and accused the library of installing funhouse mirrors to mock the patrons. She claimed the reflection in the bathroom glass was severely warped because it made her look 10 years older than she actually was. She insisted that she looked young and vibrant at home, but this specific mirror added wrinkles and gray hairs that did not exist in reality. She demanded they replace the glass immediately with a flattering filter, or she would stop coming to use the free facilities. She refused to believe it was just harsh lighting. Do mirrors ever actually lie to you? 18. An eco-friendly man started kicking the blue recycling bin because he found the sorting rules to be emotionally confused. He was angry that the bin would not accept his large styrofoam cup and accused the container of being discriminatory against certain types of trash. He argued that if he wanted to recycle something, then the bin should just accept it to make him feel like a good person. He claimed the specific rules about plastic types were too hard to read, and he should be allowed to dump anything he wants in the name of saving the planet. Is recycling actually too complicated? 19. An audiophile with massive headphones complained that the library was physically painful for him to sit in. He insisted that the overhead fluorescent lights were humming at a specific B-flat frequency that clashed horribly with the song he was listening to. He claimed the dissonance between the light bulbs and his heavy metal music was causing him spiritual anguish and ruined the artistic integrity of his playlist. He demanded the maintenance crew change the voltage to hum in the key of C major so it would harmonize better with his tracks. Can you really hear electricity humming that loud? 20. A frustrated senior citizen slammed his fists onto the desk and shouted that the computers were broken beyond repair. He was incredibly angry that the letters on the keyboard were mixed up in a random order instead of being in a straight alphabetical line. He argued that A should be followed by B, and the current QWERTY layout was a prank designed to confuse the elderly population. He demanded the IT department pop off every single key and rearrange them into the ABCD order so he could type his email properly. Why do we still use this random keyboard layout? 21. A frail elderly woman returned her large print mystery novel with a wrist brace on her arm. She was furious that the book was physically too heavy to hold up while lying in bed reading at night. She argued that the library should print the letters bigger, but keep the paper weight as light as a feather so her arms would not get tired. She claimed the heavy volume fell on her face when she dozed off and gave her a black eye, which she blamed entirely on the font size. She demanded they slice the book into 10 separate pamphlets. Do you think reading can be a dangerous sport? 22. A stressed student marched to the desk and pointed an accusatory finger at a man sitting perfectly still 3 tables away. She insisted that the silent man was thinking so loudly that she could actually hear his internal monologue disrupting her study session. She claimed the brainwaves radiating from his head were aggressive and loud like a radio station, and it was making it impossible for her to memorize biology terms. She demanded the librarian go over there and tell him to think softer thoughts or perhaps stop thinking entirely while inside. She refused to wear earplugs because the noise was telepathic. Can you actually hear someone else thinking? 23. A man with wet hands kicked the bathroom door open and shouted that the soap dispenser was personally bullying him. He claimed the motion sensor machine worked perfectly for everyone else, but deliberately ignored his hands because it was holding a digital grudge. He waved his palms frantically under the nozzle to demonstrate the refusal and insisted the machine was sentient and did not like his aura. He demanded the janitor open the device and force it to apologize, or at least give him some foam. He believed the robots were starting their uprising in the restroom. Do technology gadgets actually have feelings? 24. A paranoid woman stared intensely at the aquarium in the children's department before filing a formal harassment complaint against the goldfish. She stated that the fish were swimming in counterclockwise circles specifically to mock her life choices and make her feel dizzy. She insisted that one orange fish looked her directly in the eye and laughed at her outfit with its bubbling mouth. She demanded the staff discipline the aquatic animals or put up a tiny curtain so they could not judge the patrons anymore. She felt unsafe knowing the marine life was watching her every move. Are fish actually smarter than we think? 25. A concerned citizen called the fire department because she claimed the library smelled suspiciously like a massive fire hazard. She told the confused firefighters that the building smelled way too much like old paper and dried glue, which she felt was a sign of imminent combustion. The chief explained that libraries are full of books made of paper, so that is the natural scent of the environment. She refused to accept this logic and insisted they spray air freshener to mask the scent of flammable knowledge before the whole place exploded. She claimed reading actually smells dangerous. Is the smell of books actually frightening? 26. A confused grandfather slammed the computer mouse against the desk and shouted that the equipment was completely broken. He was holding the device backward with the cord facing his chest and could not understand why the cursor went left when he moved his hand right. He argued that the wire should point toward the user like a leash and accused the manufacturers of designing it wrong on purpose to trick seniors. The librarian gently rotated the mouse 180 degrees, and it worked perfectly, but he still refused to admit he was wrong. Why is technology so hard for some people? 27. An angry reader returned a brand new paperback novel and demanded a replacement because the spine had a crease in it. She admitted she had pressed the book completely flat on the table to read it comfortably, but was shocked that the glue actually cracked under the pressure. She argued that books should be made of indestructible rubber materials that can bend in half without showing any signs of wear and tear. She called the publisher cheap for using paper that folds and claimed the crease ruined the aesthetic of her bookshelf at home. Do you care if your books look used? 28. A young woman complained that a golden retriever in the lobby was being incredibly rude and unprofessional to her. She explained that she tried to pet the dog while making baby noises, but the animal completely ignored her and kept walking with its blind owner. She was furious that the dog did not stop to play and called it a bad boy for having zero social skills. The librarian explained that it was a working service animal doing a serious job, but she insisted the dog was just stuck up and arrogant. Do people not understand what "do not pet" actually means? 29. A health-conscious man emerged from the restroom shaking his wet hands and yelling about biological warfare. He claimed the electric hand dryer was not actually drying anything, but was instead blasting millions of germs from the toilet directly onto his clean skin. He described the warm air as a bacterial tornado and said he felt dirtier now than before he washed his hands. He demanded the library provide individualized sterile towels made of silk for every patron to avoid the plague wind. He wiped his hands on his pants and said science had gone too far. Are hand dryers actually gross? 30. A frantic student accused the heavy-duty stapler of possessing a malicious artificial intelligence. He claimed the metal device jammed on purpose right before his deadline, just to sabotage his final history paper. He insisted he saw the stapler hesitate before crunching the paper, which proved it had a conscious desire to see him fail his class. He demanded the librarian arrest the office supply for treason and provide him with a handwritten note explaining the machine's betrayal to his professor. He refused to use a paperclip because he said those were also untrustworthy. Do office supplies secretly hate us? 31. A gasping man clutched his chest and pointed a shaking finger at the large ficus tree standing harmlessly in the reading corner. He filed a serious health complaint stating that the plant was selfishly inhaling all the good oxygen in the room and leaving him with nothing to breathe. He insisted that photosynthesis was a lie invented by botanists and that trees are actually parasites that suffocate humans indoors. He demanded the staff remove the green monster immediately or provide him with a personal oxygen tank to survive the vegetation. He refused to sit near anything green because he wanted to keep his air. Do plants actually compete with us for air? 32. An artistic woman slammed a stack of gray papers onto the counter and demanded a full cash refund plus emotional damages. She was absolutely furious that the black and white printer failed to capture the vibrant emotional essence of her colorful digital image. She argued that even though she selected grayscale to save money, the machine should have intuitively known to print the feeling of the sunset using magical ink. She claimed the gray output was soul-crushing and accused the copier of having no artistic vision whatsoever. She refused to pay 10 cents for a picture that lacked spiritual warmth. Can a printer actually have a soul? 33. A sleep-deprived husband returned a hardcover bestseller and threatened to sue the library for ruining his happy marriage. He explained that the protective plastic jacket on the book made a sharp crinkling noise every time he turned a page in bed. He claimed the sound was louder than a gunshot in the silent bedroom and it woke his wife up constantly throughout the night. He demanded the library strip every single book naked of its plastic cover to ensure silent reading for couples everywhere. He insisted that preserving the book cover was less important than his wife getting 8 hours of sleep. Is reading in bed actually too noisy? 34. An entrepreneurial woman was outraged when the branch manager shut down her plastic container pyramid scheme meeting. She had booked the free community study room to host a high-pressure sales event for her friends and was shocked that commercial activity was banned. She argued that the library should support local businesses, and she was providing a vital service by selling overpriced sandwich boxes to unwilling victims. She claimed the policy against making money on public property was communism and demanded they let her finish her sales pitch. She offered to pay the fine in leftover plastic bowls but was rejected. Should libraries allow people to run businesses inside? 35. A refined gentleman in a tweed jacket refused to exit the elevator and held the door open to lodge a formal complaint. He was deeply offended that the piped-in music was a soft, instrumental version of a pop song instead of a classical symphony. He argued that hearing a violin cover of a modern radio hit insulted his intelligence and degraded the sanctity of the library atmosphere. He demanded the playlist be switched immediately to Mozart or Beethoven to elevate the cultural standard of the ride. He claimed he would rather take the stairs than listen to low-class melodies. Does elevator music actually matter that much? 36. A frustrated crossword puzzle enthusiast threw a tiny golf pencil at the reference desk in a fit of rage. He was angry that the free writing utensils provided by the library did not have erasers attached to the end. He argued that the lack of an eraser implied that the library expected him to be perfect and never make a single mistake. He claimed the stubby pencil was a psychological trap designed to give him anxiety about committing to an answer. He demanded a full-sized pencil with a fresh pink rubber tip so he could fix his errors in peace. Is it rude to complain about free stuff? 37. A patriotic veteran stood at attention before the circulation desk and filed a grievance regarding the American flag in the corner. He was visibly upset that the fabric had a slight wrinkle near the bottom stripe and claimed it was not ironed crisp enough for a government building. He argued that a wrinkly flag was a sign of national weakness, and the library was disrespecting the entire country by not owning a steamer. He demanded the staff take the flag down immediately and press it until it was as flat as a board. He refused to pledge allegiance to wrinkled cloth. Do wrinkles really disrespect a flag? 38. A suspicious man wearing dark sunglasses argued loudly with the technology coordinator about the three-dimensional printer rules. He was furious that he was not allowed to print a replacement trigger mechanism for his hunting rifle using the public plastic filament. He claimed that the library was infringing on his Second Amendment rights by refusing to help him manufacture gun parts in the makerspace. He insisted that since he paid taxes, he owned the printer and could make whatever dangerous object he wanted. He tried to argue it was actually a very abstract paperweight, but nobody believed his obvious lie. Should public libraries let you print absolutely anything? 39. A horrified grandmother slammed a heavy dictionary shut and demanded it be banned from the shelves immediately. She was scandalized that the reference book contained modern slang words used by teenagers, which she felt were destroying the English language. She pointed to words like selfie and emoji and claimed their inclusion legitimized the stupidity of the younger generation. She insisted the library should only stock dictionaries from 1950 that contained proper, dignified vocabulary. She claimed that if a word was not used by Shakespeare, then it had no business being written down on paper. Do you think language should stay the same forever? 40. A fit woman in spandex tore a flyer off the community bulletin board and marched to the front desk in a rage. She complained that the advertisement for yoga for seniors was personally offensive because she was only 59 years old. She argued that the library was calling her elderly by placing the flyer at her eye level, and she felt age-shamed by the piece of paper. She screamed that 60 is the new 40 and demanded the librarian apologize for implying her joints were stiff. She insisted they rename the class Yoga for experienced people instead. Is 59 actually considered a senior citizen? 41. A breathless man collapsed dramatically at the top of the second-floor landing and gasped for air while clutching his chest. He filed a formal complaint stating that the staircase had far too many steps and the architect was clearly a sadist who enjoyed torturing patrons. He argued that climbing 20 stairs was a physical violation of his rights and demanded the library install an escalator immediately for his comfort. The librarian pointed to the modern elevator located 10 feet away, but he refused to use it because he did not trust metal boxes. He claimed the stairs were designed to give him a heart attack. Why do people choose the hard way, then complain? 42. A confused woman slammed an old, crumpled piece of paper onto the counter and demanded a fresh replacement immediately. She was furious that the checkout receipt she had been using as a bookmark for 6 months had faded to white. She argued that the thermal ink was cheap and the disappearance of the text caused her to lose her place in her romance novel. She insisted the library should use permanent archival ink on their receipts so they would last for decades as high-quality page markers. She refused to use the free colorful bookmarks sitting right next to her hand because she preferred the receipt. Do receipts actually make good bookmarks? 43. A nervous man wearing a hoodie approached the desk and whispered that the analog wall clock was threatening him. He claimed the ticking sound was not a normal mechanical noise, but actually an ominous countdown to his inevitable doom. He insisted that the rhythmic clicking was aggressive and sounded exactly like a movie bomb waiting to explode, which gave him severe anxiety. He demanded the staff smash the clock or replace it with a silent digital version so he could read in peace without thinking about his mortality. He claimed the second hand was moving faster just to stress him out. Is a ticking clock actually scary? 44. An agitated man in a tracksuit slammed his laptop shut and screamed that the free internet was censoring his lifestyle. He was absolutely furious that the library firewall blocked his access to a very specific, illegal offshore gambling website. He argued that since he was a taxpayer, he owned the Wi-Fi and had the right to lose his life savings on digital poker whenever he wanted. He accused the librarians of being communists for restricting his financial freedom and demanded they disable all security filters immediately. He claimed he was on a lucky streak and the library owed him the money he would have won. Should public Wi-Fi have no limits? 45. A fantasy enthusiast spun the large globe in the reference section and laughed loudly at the obvious manufacturing error. He filed a complaint stating that the map included the country of New Zealand, which he insisted was a fictional place from Lord of the Rings. He argued that Middle-earth is not real, and including it on a scientific globe was misleading to the children who were trying to learn geography. He demanded the staff get a Sharpie and cross out the islands to maintain factual accuracy. He refused to believe that hobbits did not live there and claimed the map makers were just nerds. Is geography actually this confusing? 46. A stylish man in a designer suit threw his plastic library card at the staff and demanded compensation for property damage. He claimed the edges of the laminated card were dangerously sharp and had scratched the interior leather of his expensive Italian wallet. He argued that the library was negligent for handing out weaponized plastic without a warning label about the razor-sharp corners. He demanded they sand down the edges of every single card in the system to prevent further destruction of luxury goods. He showed a tiny microscopic mark on his wallet as proof of the violent assault. Are library cards actually dangerous weapons? 47. An uncomfortable patron limped up to the desk, rubbing his lower back, and demanded the library buy him a new spine. He was angry that the standard wooden chair had hurt his bones after he sat in the exact same spot for 6 hours straight without moving. He argued that the furniture should be made of memory foam and clouds to support his sedentary lifestyle. He claimed the hardwood was a torture device designed to force people to leave early and demanded a leather recliner for his next visit. He refused to stand up and stretch because that was too much work. Can a chair actually break your bones? 48. A bewildered man kicked the side of the photocopier and shouted that the expensive machine was completely broken. He explained that he was trying to make a paper copy of a small hand mirror, but the output just kept coming out solid black. He argued that the machine should be able to capture the reflection and print a shiny image of his face on the paper. He accused the library of having outdated technology that could not understand the simple concept of mirrors. He wasted 50 sheets of paper trying to catch his reflection before finally giving up in total defeat. How do mirrors actually work? 49. A grumpy regular patron demanded the library install heavy industrial blackout curtains over the large scenic windows immediately. He was furious that the natural sunlight hit his favorite reading chair, specifically at 2 in the afternoon, which made him slightly warm. He argued that the son was harassing him and the library was liable for his discomfort because they built the window facing west. He refused to simply move his chair 3 feet to the left into the shade because that was his spot. He claimed the planet should stop rotating just so he could read his newspaper comfortably. Is the sun actually annoying? 50. A confused woman called the help desk on Monday morning to scream about the terrible customer service. She was furious that the library website was not working on Sunday when the physical building was closed. She genuinely believed that the internet URL shut down and locked its digital doors whenever the librarians went home for the weekend. She argued that websites need staff to keep the pages loading and accused them of being lazy for not keeping the server open. She demanded they hire a night watchman for the internet so she could browse the catalog at midnight. Does the internet ever actually sleep? 51. A proud homeowner stood in front of the large historical map of the county and shouted that it was fake news. He was furious that the cartography from 1995 did not depict his brand new paved driveway. He argued that the library was erasing his existence by not updating a 30-year-old map with a Sharpie to show his recent home improvement. He demanded the staff hire a surveyor to redraw the entire wall mural immediately so his house would look more impressive to visitors. He claimed getting lost was impossible if his driveway was visible. Do people think maps update in real time? 52. A protective mother interrupted the toddler's storytime session to file a formal grievance against a hand puppet. She was absolutely convinced that the fuzzy gray wolf puppet was threatening the children and instilling deep psychological fear in their minds. She argued that wolves are predators, and using one to tell stories was equivalent to bringing a live bear into the room. She demanded the librarian switch to a vegan animal like a bunny or a tofu block to avoid traumatizing the sensitive babies. She claimed the wolf's googly eyes were looking at her child with hunger. Can a sock puppet actually be dangerous? 53. A grumpy student slammed his heavy textbooks down and shouted that the study table was defective garbage. He complained loudly that the surface was wobbly and kept shaking every time he tried to write his essay. He demanded the maintenance crew bring a level and a saw to fix the uneven legs immediately because it was ruining his handwriting. The janitor walked over and pointed out that the student was actually resting his foot directly on the table base, which was causing the instability. He refused to move his foot and said the floor was wrong. Is it easier to blame furniture than yourself? 54. A suspicious woman narrowed her eyes at the self-checkout kiosk and accused the robot of having an attitude problem. She claimed the automated voice was being incredibly sarcastic when it said, "Please place item in the bag." She insisted the machine emphasized the word "please" in a way that implied she was stupid, and she did not appreciate the digital condescension. She demanded the staff reprogram the voice to sound more humble and subservient to her needs. She refused to scan her last book until the machine apologized for its rude tone. Do robots actually have secret personalities? 55. A sophisticated interior designer covered her eyes with her hands and screamed that the children's department was assaulting her senses. She filed a complaint stating that the bright primary colors on the walls were causing her a severe visual migraine. She argued that red and yellow are aggressive hues that induce stress, and the library should repaint the entire kids section in sad beige or grayja to be more calming. She demanded they dim the lights and cover the colorful rugs with neutral drop cloths immediately. She claimed happy colors were actually toxic to the brain. Do kids actually like boring beige colors? 56. A genealogy researcher emerged from the dark microfilm room looking pale and shaking with fear. He filed a complaint not about the equipment, but about the feelings the old records gave him. He stated that looking at the names of dead people from the 1800s filled him with a crushing sense of existential dread. He argued that the library should put warning stickers on the history reels to alert patrons that time is fleeting and we all turn to dust eventually. He demanded a therapy dog be stationed in the archives to combat the sadness. Is history actually too depressing to read? 57. A jumpy man threw a cooking magazine across the room and clutched his chest in total shock. He was furious that a loose subscription insert card had fallen out from between the pages and startled him. He claimed the sudden movement of the small paper rectangle was a deliberate jump scare designed to give him a heart attack. He argued that magazines should be shaken upside down by staff to remove all loose debris before being shelved. He demanded a glass of water and an apology for the ambush by the cardboard marketing material. Are magazines actually trying to attack us? 58. A short-statured woman stood on her tiptoes and shouted that the circulation desk was a symbol of oppression. She was furious that the counter was built so high that the librarian had to look down on her physically. She argued that this height difference was a psychological power move designed to make patrons feel inferior and submissive to the library staff. She demanded they saw the legs off the desk to bring everyone to eye level, or provide her with a step stool to assert her dominance. She felt the furniture was mocking her height. Does furniture design actually affect your ego? 59. A disheveled man opened the door to the glass-walled quiet study room and yelled at the staff for the lack of privacy. He was angry that the transparent walls allowed everyone to see him while he was trying to change into a fresh pair of pants. He argued that a private room should mean total invisibility and accused the library of being voyeurs for watching him undress. The librarian explained that the room was for studying and not for changing clothes, but he insisted the glass should fog up on command. Do people not understand what glass actually does? 60. A furious car owner marched to the desk waving his keys and demanded the library write him a check for $20. He explained that while he was inside reading a book, a wild bird had defecated on his clean sedan in the parking lot. He argued that since the bird was on library property, the institution was responsible for the actions of the animal. He claimed the library should have installed anti-bird lasers to protect the vehicles of tax-paying citizens. He refused to leave until they washed his windshield with a bucket. Are you responsible for wild birds? 61. A sweaty man fanned himself aggressively with a romance novel and screamed that the building was a sauna. He filed a formal complaint that the thermostat was set to 72 degrees, which he claimed was medically dangerous. He insisted that 72 is sweat weather and the library should be kept at exactly 68 degrees at all times to prevent him from melting. He argued that he paid taxes for air conditioning and demanded the staff freeze the other patrons just to accommodate his personal metabolism. He claimed the heat was melting his brain. Is 2 degrees really a big deal? So there you have it. Absolute proof that common sense is a superpower that most people clearly do not possess. From demanding refunds on free items to picking fights with furniture, humanity is officially doomed. If you survived this chaos without throwing your phone, please smash that like button and subscribe to Ridiculous Complaints right now. Don't forget to ring that bell so you never miss the drama. Now I have to know, what is the most unhinged Karen moment you have ever witnessed in real life? Drop your craziest stories in the comments below. See you next time.